Please state your full names for the record.
I Lulama Mukhobo.
Do you have any objection to taking the prescribed oath?
No.
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
Yes.
Do you swear that the evidence you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Mukhobo.
Sorry. Thank you for coming back, Ms. Mukhobo.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I've got the pronunciation of your surname correctly, because somehow I think I've been pronouncing it as if the first O is A. So if you can just tell, is it Mukhobo?
It's Mukhobo.
Mukhobo.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I've also been pronouncing as Mukhobo, then not
That's
Mukhobo.
correct. Mukhobo.
Mukhobo.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
don't pronounce it like isiZulu or
Yes.
Xhosa. Say
That's what I'm
Mukhobo.
doing. I apologize.
It's
Thank you,
Mukhobo.
Chair.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Ms. Mukhobo, you have in front of you Exhibit CC21, but the statement that we are going to make reference to today appears from pages 70 onwards, and they will be under a divider marked C.
Yes.
And that statement has now been admitted as Exhibit CC21A. So that's the only one that we will refer to, and other documents that we may make reference to. Could you please take a look at page 70? And do you identify that as your affidavit?
I do.
If you go to page 89.
I'm sorry, I wonder whether that mic is not too far,
From here.
but I could hear you, but maybe you might bring it. I see it's pointing skywards as
Yes.
well. Maybe it should, I don't know who interfered, maybe bend it a little bit.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. At page 89, is that your signature?
Yes.
And did you depose to that affidavit on the 16th of October 2019?
Yes.
Thank you. And the contents of that supplementary affidavit, true and correct?
Yes.
Thank you. You recall that a Chair had invited you to submit a statement that deals with the digital migration project. And that is what you have done, is that correct?
Yes.
You did testify before the Commission on the 4th of September 2019.
Yes.
Yes. What I would like to do is to take you to paragraph 44 that appears at page 83. Because in terms of sequence, I believe that's where you should start. And about your role in the SABC Digital Migration Program. Could you just tell, Chair, briefly, what was your role in this program?
Chair,
That is the digital migration
program. That's
Yeah.
correct, Chair, yes.
are you looking at from point 45?
44, page 83,
Okay.
83.
Chair, I thought it was important to locate where I was coming from as a member of the SABC charged with running that institution. And in this paragraph, I table my experience. I had been one of the industry players in the 1980s, to be precise, starting from 1982. As the head of the now defunct Bob TV Edutel, which was an educational radio and TV section of Bob TV, and I was there for 10 years. And I go on to say, having experienced the power of instructional and educational TV and radio technology and content in education and rural development, particularly in poverty-stricken communities, and having seen teachers with poor qualifications and learners whose chance at bright futures were severely threatened by their lack of access to quality education, blossom as a result of the TV and radio technology interventions. I could therefore grasp the vast opportunities that DTT with STB control enabled technology could provide. I was, during the phase when the broadcast digital migration policy was being developed, one of the people who were invited to give input. I was also a member of the CENTEC board and was intimately aware of the possibilities that were at hand. I therefore viewed the SABC as possibly the best placed organ of state to be at the forefront of propelling our nation to becoming a citizenry filled with hope and determination to learn and apply its learning for the greater good of family, community, and nation. The participation of the marginalized in the digital dividend and knowledge economy would indeed help make South Africa a better place for all who live in it. At a practical level, the SABC Technology Division reported to me. I was therefore involved in providing strategic insights and playing the critical oversight role of ensuring that approved plans were implemented and budget utilization was focused on critical measurable deliverables, the most critical of which was the digitizing of all areas of the SABC critical to DTT migration. I was thus able to share in the strategies, research, and development activities through the creation of the SABC's own STB encrypted laboratory testing facility and the showcasing of SABC's capabilities. And the showcasing, Chair, was done at a big convention which focused on DTT, and there were internationals who came in with all manner of equipment. And the SABC actually won, I think it was a silver award for what they showed. They showed the interactivity. They almost went as far as to show even gaming as one of the options that could be included if the set-top box was encrypted.
Yes. And you say you worked there with, you mentioned Mr. Sipho Masinga?
Yes.
Yes. And what role did he play?
Mr. Masinga was the group executive for technology.
Yes.
A very well-trained engineer with numerous related qualifications. And he showed an astuteness and creativity that, if harnessed, even after I'd left the SABC, would have led the organization into going beyond its traditional broadcasting role and becoming a non-linear hub of knowledge through technological possibilities provided by digital broadcasting and user-receiver technology. And here I mean the set-top boxes, yes. Encrypted set-top boxes.
Okay. So if then, with that background that you've given the chair, when then the whole proposal about how this relationship between MultiChoice and SABC was going to work, you had the best appreciation of what would benefit the SABC.
Indeed, Chair.
Yes.
I did.
And then I'm going to take you back, ma'am, to page 72 now, because there you just highlight the events that led up to that led to the signing of the agreement between MultiChoice and the SABC.
I don't know whether I got this from reading statements or whether it was evidence that you did cover in your, or it was something that you did cover in your evidence previously. But I do recall, I seem to recall that in your evidence you did say that this agreement was signed on a day when you were away from work, you were on leave or something. So the only reason why I'm mentioning that is obviously that we don't need to cover what you have already covered before, but Ms. Norman would be alive to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
But obviously, it might be necessary to go back a little bit so as to connect the story properly.
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, it just goes back by, I think, a day, Chair, and then...
That's fine.
Yes,
That's
thank
fine.
you. On the 15th of May, could you just tell, Chair, summarize what happened on the 15th of May, 2013?
Chair, I make a statement here which is very aligned to statements that the Chair has heard from the Minister yesterday and from other members of his team who have testified here. And here I say, on the 15th of May 2013, when MultiChoice wrote a set of proposed provisions to Mr. Mutwening that would form the basis of the MultiChoice and SABC multi-channel agreement, MultiChoice had seen an opportunity to cause a major policy shift in the digital terrestrial transformation project.
Yes, and you refer to Annexure 1, which appears at page 90, which was a letter addressed, are you there?
Yes.
What page?
Page 90, Chair.
Okay.
That's a letter that was addressed to Mr. Hlaudi, who wrote that letter to him?
It was
Hlaudi
Mr.
Mutweneng, I beg your pardon.
Yes, the letter was written by Mr. Imtiaz Patel, the then CEO of MultiChoice.
Yes. And then if you go to the, well, we don't have to deal with all of those because they form part of some of the terms of the agreement, but I'll take you to the crucial terms which you are here to talk about today. And then could you just tell the Chair then what happened on the 6th of June? According to your statement, because that's where...
I'm sorry, Ms. Norman.
Yes, Chair.
If no other witness has dealt with the contents of the letter, it might be important that even if Ms. Mukhobo doesn't read the whole letter,
yes, Chair,
she highlights the main of the letter as she says it, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Would you proceed to do so, Ms. Mukhobo?
I shall, Chair.
Yes.
The letter begins with a thanking of the SABC, I guess, Mr. Mutwening, for the meetings, constructive meetings and open dialogues that they had regarding the development of a mutually beneficial agreement between SABC and MultiChoice. He goes on to say, as you are aware, it is our intention that a wider partnership between the SABC and MCA is developed over time. We appreciate that the SABC has to fulfill its mandate as public broadcaster in South Africa, but at the same time is the leading and most diverse free-to-air broadcaster operating in the country. MCA believes that building a partnership with the SABC will be beneficial to both organizations. MCA's primary business is content aggregation, technology, and platform development. MCA has an active subscriber base of some 4.5 million digital satellite households and provides access to some 20 million viewers in South Africa. We believe that MCA can assist SABC in enhancing on its mandate as public broadcaster and immediately expand its free-to-air broadcasting operations. DTT in South Africa is currently in a mess with risk for all existing broadcasters. Free-to-air broadcasters are faced with the challenge of advertising revenues being diluted over a number of free-to-air channels. Pay TV broadcasters on DTT have limited capacity available, which reduces their ability to provide an attractive multi-channel pay offering to subscribers. The SABC will have to invest in the content for its DTT platform, with advertising revenues only being generated much later once the free-to-air DTT platform and base has been established. We propose that the SABC and MCA work together to develop their respective DTT and/or digital satellite platforms. This can take the form of cooperation agreements and channel supply agreements. This will provide the SABC immediate access to MCA's active digital satellite subscriber base with an opportunity to generate guaranteed channel revenue and advertising revenue from day one. This presents the SABC with substantial potential upside for success of its operations and the free-to-air DTT platform.
Can I just take you then directly to the proposal at page 91?
Yes.
Yes.
The SABC channel supply proposal, number 1, the SABC will provide MCA with the following channels: an exclusive entertainment channel, SABC Premium, and a 24-hour news channel, SABC News. In return for the delivery of the channels listed above by SABC, MultiChoice will pay the SABC a flat fee of 500 million rand, payable over a period of 5 years. The SABC will bear the full costs for the production of the channels. The SABC shall retain all advertising generated on these channels. The entertainment channel will be exclusive to MCA, and MCA will be authorized to distribute the entertainment channel on its distribution platforms. The SABC News channel will be exclusive to MCA's satellite platform, and MCA will be authorized to distribute the SABC News channel on all its distribution platforms. The SABC will, however, be allowed to distribute the SABC News channel on its own free-to-air DTT platform, subject to point 9 below. I suppose I should go directly to point 9 below.
Yeah.
Yes.
The offer presupposes that all SABC channels on its DTT platform will be made available to the public unencrypted, without a conditional access system, and thereby incidentally receivable by the MCA DTT decoder.
Thank you. And that becomes the issue that you raised at the meeting of the 6th of June 2013.
Yes.
Could you just quickly go to paragraphs 11.1 and 11.2, where you deal with the proposed terms of the agreement that you canvassed largely at the meeting? That would, we are now at page 72, back to page 72.
Back to page 72. Yes, Chair.
Thank you.
What would you like me to?
Yes, if you turn the page,
Yes.
this is where you discuss the terms that were contentious,
Yes.
that were discussed, point 9 and point 10 of the draft agreement that was submitted, I believe at the meeting, that was debated at the meeting.
Yes.
Thank you. Could you just quickly tell the Chair why did you have a problem with those particular clauses?
Chair, I had a very serious problem with point 9.
I'm sorry. Ms. Norman, will that cover paragraph 11 of her?
That is paragraph 11, Chair.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Paragraph 11.
Yes.
Are you there?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Paragraph 11. Should I read paragraph 11?
Yes, you can read, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
On 6 June 2013, the SABC Interim Board and MCA's Chairman, Mr. Lidele, CEO, Mr. Imtiaz Patel, together with Mr. Greg Hamburger, met to discuss the substance of the future multi-channel agreement as a follow-up to the letter referred to in point 9 above. Of particular contention, as may be gleaned from the verbatim minutes of the said meeting, were two provisions that effectively dictated the SABC's 2008 digital migration broadcast policy-based strategy on set-top box encryption. They state, point 9, the offer presupposes that all SABC channels on its DTT platform will be made available to the public unencrypted without a conditional access system, and thereby incidentally receivable by the MCA-DT decoder. Point 10 states, MCA, the SABC, Centec, if required, work together to promote carriage of all the SABC's free-to-air channels on the SABC free-to-air multiplex will be made available to MCA satellite platform, subject to available capacity. This is in order to enable the SABC to generate revenue from day one. Point 12, this is where I begin to explain why the two clauses were problematic. I was joined by SABC board member Mr. Mavuso in categorically stating that point 9 and 10 were not enforceable through the future multi-channel agreement and entirely depended on the Department of Communications and governments deciding to amend the 2008 BDM policy to reflect the change. Moreover, the DOC had begun a mass carry regulations review process which could ultimately lead to the SABC being paid for any channels that were broadcast through MCA and other satellite platforms. So essentially, Chair, we were sitting with people with very serious commercial interests who effectively wanted to dominate the market by hook or crook. And they saw the SABC as probably the most critical organization which could lend credence to their attempt at basically taking the entire market over and shutting out anybody who tried to be a dissenter. The BDM policy of 2008, Chair, as far as I was concerned, as the person who had been placed in that organization, to not only run it, safeguard its duty in the current state and in the future, and ensure that from all perspectives of its mission and vision, that it covered them. And the core mission of the SABC was to empower the citizenry of South Africa. And how do you empower the citizenry if you do not do it via information? Best placed organization to provide on-the-spot information throughout the country without filters. Now, the citizens would, at the time, and I think it is worse now, Chair, with the losses of jobs that we're seeing in the country, with the deepening of employment crisis and the deepening of poverty. They deserved to be given an opportunity to have access to any piece of information that they would need. An encrypted DTT box would enable a return path that would enable a citizen sitting anywhere in the country, for as long as they had a TV set, even the old black and white box would be able to work through the set-top box, would be able to search for information on the internet using that box. We had also, and this was also a policy provision, and I do cover that later, but if you will allow me. Advocate. We had also been enjoined through the BDM policy to ensure that the set-top boxes would have a return path. And that return path would enable a telephone capability, whether it would be via a cord or if, with the sophistication that we have in the country now, via Bluetooth or whatever means. And with Telkom also being a state entity, coming on board as a provider of telephony countrywide to enable also over and above its core function of enabling people to talk to each other via the phone, but to enable access to their internet network that would come through the set-top box. So effectively, old people, young people in faraway places would not have to travel the distances that they would need to travel to get to any place where they would require help, whether it would be for registering a child's birth, for registering an old lady to receive pension, and for all manner of things that I cannot, off the top of my head, mention right now. The list is too long.
That would include internet cafes and so on.
Yes.
They wouldn't have to, young people wouldn't have to try and go in distances to look for those.
Indeed, Chair. And the beauty of it all is they would not have to spend a penny because they would have their own internet cafe at home. They would be able to go in and do their research. I'm very passionate about education, Chair. I come from an educator background. I'm very, very passionate about education. And we know how in trouble our schooling system is, how our children continue to not do well. And not very long ago, there was a research document that was published which suggested that the standard of education in our country seems to be going lower instead of getting better.
I wouldn't be surprised if that is true.
Indeed, Chair.
I wouldn't be surprised. I watch celebrations about matric results, and I think that the families whose children celebrate their achievements are entitled to celebrate. That's good, but I think we don't put enough emphasis on many learners who didn't make it up to matric. And I think that recently it was said that in terms of Africans, that figure is about half, if I'm not, or even more than half, if you look at those who started together at grade 1, that by the time that class reaches matric and passes, it's not less than half who didn't go up to matric. They drop out or stop at some stage. And when we celebrate those who have achieved, we need to worry about those as well who have been lost in the system. So I share your passion for education.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So you were saying that there is so much of value that the SABC would have been able to give to the citizenry if the encrypted set-top boxes had been continued with in terms of the digital migration. And what MultiChoice and NASPAS wanted to do was to effectively strengthen their monopoly of their dominance of the market, but in effect, the consequences and effects on the citizenry were far-reaching.
Indeed, Chair. Indeed. I saw how children and their teachers would actually glow at how much they could understand concepts better, because they would have somebody who knows the subject matter better, teaching to them via television. They would be able to see experiments. A lot of these schools don't have laboratories, and yet we decry the fact that we don't have enough children trained in science and mathematics. How do they get trained in those when they do not have laboratories? And secondly, when the teachers themselves do not have the appropriate qualifications or ability to impart the knowledge. So you would be able to get almost a distance learning program running throughout the country with the best teachers and the children would be able to watch those programs. And if they could not watch them at the time when they run, and that's where the PVR functionality is so important, they could set their PVR to record the program for themselves. So when they get home, at the time when they're studying, they could switch on and watch it. The same case goes for the teachers themselves, who would be able to use the information they get to better match the information and learning requirements of their children. But as we know, the challenge does not go away, at least not right now.
So effectively, one of the points you make is that one of the advantages would have been that when, for example, we talk about challenges about maths and science teachers and maths and sciences subjects in very many schools in our country, and talk about the fact that very many schools don't have qualified maths and science teachers, this could have resulted in a situation where a teacher who is very well qualified could actually be accessed in a way by millions in the country if he or she was teaching maths or science, so that even though you might not have a qualified teacher in maths and science, you could benefit quite a lot from these teachers who might be providing lessons through this program.
Indeed, Chair.
Yeah.
And I know that MultiChoice will probably argue that they do have a learning channel on their platform, and that learning channel provides for that. Remember, the fact of the matter is, millions, actually, of South Africans cannot afford to pay those subscription fees.
Exactly.
They
Yes.
cannot. And what happens is, if they fail to pay, they are unplugged.
Yes.
They are switched off.
Yes.
So
yes.
the whole argument that the SABC, people like myself, who wanted encryption, wanted to be able to switch citizens off, it was the most nonsensical argument ever, Chair. There is no way that anybody would switch anybody off. But people would be able to get access to their education at zero cost to themselves. All they needed to have is the electricity to run the TV, is to be able to connect the port, it's to be, the PVR
Yeah.
functionality would enable them. That is all, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank,
Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then on the 2nd of July, whilst you were on leave, it's now common cause the agreement was signed.
Yes.
Yes. And I just want to take you to that agreement. Chair, that agreement appears in Exhibit CC 42.
Just before we go there,
Yes.
prior to MultiChoice letter addressed to Mr. Mzwaneng arriving, had you been aware of any discussions that might have been taking place prior to that between anybody from SABC and MultiChoice about any possible cooperation?
Chair, discussions around cooperating with MultiChoice began at the time when I had just begun at the SABC
Yes.
in 2012.
Yes.
When the Parliament, members of Cabinet were getting very upset with the SABC for not establishing the 24-hour news channel. There were
Yes.
elections coming up. There was so much pressure on the SABC to create space for a lot of news, and in particular, the
Yes.
coverage of different political parties and et cetera, et cetera. And the SABC on its own could not create the channel because there was a ruling that all the space that was available was going to be used for the future. And we could not touch it, and therefore we could not create a new channel on the SABC. And so the only other alternative was to then go to multi-choice and discuss the possibility. And it turned out that many people had already been lobbying multi-choice for the possibility of having a 24-hour news channel.
Yes.
So our discussions began then, Chair. And in my previous submission, I did state that nothing came of those initial discussions and contract because the money that MultiChoice was willing to pay was too little.
Yes.
The critical thing, Chair, is that the contract did not have any of these very strange clauses that became a bone of contention for many of us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. If I may just take you to CC42, Exhibit CC42, which is the affidavit of Ms. Bai, Ms. Viola Bai, at page 161. That agreement begins from page 153, but I would like to draw your attention to 161. Are you there?
Advocate.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you.
Advocate.
Thank you. Could you please just read, there's two clauses I would like you to place on record. And the one is clause 2.1.3. Has Chair found it? Page 161, Chair?
I am at page 161.
Yes, Chair. Just for reference, Chair may want to have a look at page 153.
Is that where it starts?
Where it starts, for the witness to identify what that agreement
Yes,
is.
it's important for us
Yes.
to be able to say the
Yes.
agreement starts from page so and so and goes
Yes.
up to page so and so.
That's correct.
Then we can go to the particular page.
Thank you. It goes up to page, it's got a lot of annexures, page 199.
Yes,
Yes,
okay,
thank
all
you.
right.
Could you identify what that agreement is just on page 153?
On page
153,
153,
yes.
It's a commercial and master channel distribution agreement between MultiChoice Proprietary Limited and South African Broadcasting Corporation, SOC Limited.
Thank you. And then may I just refer you to page 161?
Yes.
Could you please have a look?
And that's a separate agreement from the other one that we were discussing yesterday with Mr. Karim?
Yes.
This one is
it's the
separate
same-
from that one, or is it the same
It is the same,
agreement?
Chair.
It's
Oh,
the
okay.
same agreement.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay,
it is the
all
same.
right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Could you just read paragraphs clauses 2.13 and 2.15?
2.13 states MCA will pay the SABC an annual fee of 100 million rand, excluding VAT, during the time in consideration of the rights granted and obligations undertaken by the SABC, increased by 5% per annum during each year of the term as from the anniversary of the start date, with an amount of 30 million rand being payable within 30 days of the start date as a refundable advance in part payment of the annual fees for the first year of the agreement, pending the launch of the pay TV channels.
Yes. And then 2.15?
The channel signals for the SABC FTA channels as transmitted in South Africa would at all times be available to and receivable on the Mnet DTT set-top boxes distributed in South Africa. The SABC agrees that the SABC FTA channels will not at any time be encrypted or allowed any conditional access system to be applied irrespective of the channel signals for the SABC FTA channels transmitted on the SABC DTT platform in South Africa, so that viewers are able to view SABC FTA channels without requiring anything other than the installation of the Mnet DTT set-top box.
Yes. Would I be correct to say that that was similar to what clause 9 was in the proposal?
Indeed, Chair.
Yes. But then if you go to that final agreement and you go to clause 9, you will find that it deals with something different. Clause 9 will be at page, I beg your pardon, Chair. It would be at page 173.
And there, Chair.
Are you there? And then it deals with SMS.
Yes.
And that's not what was in the original proposed one, which you objected to. What I'm saying, it was not clause 9 then.
No, it was not clause
Yes,
9 then.
Yes, thank you.
Well, let's hear first what clause 9 says.
Yes. Clause 9, could you just read quickly what clause 9 says?
MCA shall provide or cause to be provided subscriber management services, SMS, in the performance benchmark MCA shall, sorry, I think I've skipped a page. I do apologize. Let me read it
Yes.
again. MCA shall provide or cause to be provided subscriber management services in respect of the channels as may be included by MCA on its television platforms as generally accepted and understood in the industry at the date of signature hereof. The SABC acknowledges that all proprietary and intellectual property rights arising from conduct by MCA of the SMS shall, as between the SABC and MCA, vest exclusively in MCA.
Thank you. And maybe in fairness, just to balance up whatever we're going to deal with in the end.
There was a point you made, I didn't get it,
Yes,
about whether this captured something that was in the proposal or something.
That's correct, Chair.
Will you just deal with that again? I didn't.
You didn't get that one, Chair.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Chair, I had referred the witness, I had asked the witness, Ms. Mukhobo, to read paragraph 2.1, clause 2.1.5. And the question that followed was, because this dealt with whatever was going to be furnished would not be encrypted. So I asked her whether that was similar to the clause 9 that she objected to. And then she said yes.
Okay.
Yes. But she could just repeat what you said in reference to clause 2.1.5.
Chair, if I may just clarify
Yes.
something quickly. The letter was a proposal, and out of the proposal, they then drafted the agreement.
Yes.
Therefore, you will find clause 9 appearing in a different clause on the contract itself.
Yes.
So there is nothing that has been removed.
Or it was
What has
substantial,
rather
it was
happened-
captured.
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
What was in the letter, in substance, found its way to the agreement.
Yes.
Okay.
All of what was in the letter.
All of what was in
Plus,
the letter.
there were some additional
Yes.
clauses,
Yes.
such as the SMS clause,
Yes.
which was not in the original
Okay.
proposal letter.
Okay.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
No,
Thank you, Chair. So in essence, then, when this then was signed, then one would have expected that there must have been agreement now between MultiChoice and SABC to say, keep your clause 9 and 10, we're happy with them.
Seemingly, Chair.
Yes. And in your discussions with us and when you went through the minutes, which I had asked you to go through them, did you manage to get hold of a minute that would show that on this, at the meeting of the 2nd of July 2013, which you did not attend, there was approval of that agreement?
Chair, there's a very strange set of minutes. Advocate, could you please
Yes.
guide us to the exact
Thank you, Chair.
pages in the files?
Thank you, Chair. May I take you, Chair, to
Maybe
exhibit.
while you are looking, Ms. Norman, can
Yes,
you
Chair.
just ask this,
Yes.
Ms. Mukhobo? Prior to your going on leave, and I'm talking about the leave when, in your absence, the agreement was signed, had you been informed or were you aware that the interactions between SABC and MultiChoice had reached a stage where an agreement could be signed anytime?
Chair, the last meeting that we had with MultiChoice was the meeting where myself and other board members, notably Mr. Mavuso, raised very sharply our discomfort with the two clauses. And the fact of the matter was that they were going to be reviewed or removed. Because there was no way that I could have sat there and agreed that the law be broken. A policy statement from government becomes law. There was no way I could have been party to that happening. So that meeting had discussed quite intensely. It was, shall I say, there was a little bit of camaraderie in that meeting. There was a little bit of joking backwards and
Between
forwards.
multi-choice and SABC.
And SABC. But there was absolute clarity on things that should not have been in discussion
Yes.
as being included in the contract. Therefore,
Yeah.
it was quite surprising when I read